Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we're talking about weddings.
That's right. We are having a wedding, but we're actually planning all the things out for the wedding.
That's right. So there are lots of things to think about when you're planning a wedding, and I don't think that the woman in today's dialogue has forgotten anything. Let's take a listen to the dialogue first, and we'll be back in a moment.
Trina, will you marry me?
Yes! Jared, of course I'll marry you.
Oh, babe, I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. I can't wait for all the adventures we're going to have, for all the fights and the laughter. I can't wait to grow old and wrinkly with you.
Oh, Jared, I can't wait for our wedding. I hope you don't mind, but I've already chosen a date. 6 months from now in the summer. Melissa saw you buying the ring last month, so I had plenty of time to start planning.
She what?
Oh, don't worry, sweetie. I didn't know when you were going to propose. It was still a nice surprise. As I was saying, I've got it all planned out. There's almost nothing left to do. I wrote up our guest list, and we will have roughly 400 guests attending.
400?
No need to sweat it. My parents agreed to pay for most of the wedding, which is going to be a low budget anyway. So roughly 400 people, which means that the hall at Northwood Heights will be our reception venue. I thought it would be nice if we had the wedding at your parents' church, and my uncle, of course, would be officiating. We'll meet with him soon for some pre-wedding counselling. The music for the wedding ceremony was a no-brainer. My stepsister and her string quartet will take care of that. My cousin will be the official photographer. I thought it would also be nice if his daughter could sing a solo. Did you know that she's going to be a professional opera singer? And then, of course, the ladies at the church would love to be our caterers for the banquet, and we'll get the youth group to serve us. I was thinking that your friend's band could be our entertainment for the night, though they might have to tone it down a bit. Or we could hire a DJ. Your sister's husband could get us a discount with that company that does the decor at weddings. What's their name again? I was thinking that we could have an island paradise themed wedding, and our theme colour would be a soothing blue like aquamarine, and there will be a huge seashell on the wall behind the podium where we'll make our toasts. What do you think of small packages of drink mixes for our wedding favours? Who else am I missing? Oh, your uncle could be our florist, and his wife could make our wedding cake.
Oh, wow.
See, it's going to be wonderful. Oh, this wedding is going to be everything I ever dreamed of.
If I survive the next 6 months.
All right, we're back. So she talked a lot. So there are a lot of words and phrases here that we're going to take a look at. So let's start with a couple of them on language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, so on language takeaway, why don't we start off with the first word? And the basic one, before you start to plan a wedding, the guy needs to propose.
Or the woman. Let's be 21st century here. Normally it's the man, but to propose in this instance means to propose marriage. So basically this is the part where someone gets down on his knee and he says, you know, sweetie pie, I want to be with you forever. Will you marry me?
Right.
To propose.
So to propose is to ask someone to marry you.
That's right.
But it can also mean something else, right? To suggest.
That's right. So I could propose an idea. Or I could propose a plan. But in this case, to propose has another meaning, and it's basically to ask someone to marry you.
Okay, very good. So now we've proposed to someone, so we need to start planning our wedding. And I think one of the first steps is you need to know how many people are going to be there and who you're going to invite.
That's right. So when you're planning a wedding, you have to think about the people that are going to attend the wedding. So you prepare a guest list.
Okay, so a guest list. Now, it's pretty simple, right? You have a list where you put everyone's name there and you know how many people are coming.
Exactly.
Okay, a guest list. Now you have your guest list, and now you need to pick a place where your wedding will be.
That's right. So we often talk about two parts to a wedding. The first part is the ceremony, the wedding ceremony. Maybe if you're religious, that happens in a church.
Okay.
But there's a party afterwards, and that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a reception.
Okay.
A reception is basically the party part of the wedding where you drink and eat and listen to music and dance. So obviously for that, you need a space, a place to have the party, and we call it the reception venue.
Okay, a venue. So, as you said, the reception is the party and the venue is the place where you have it. Now, a venue is not a specific word, right? You can use venue for many different places.
That's right. So, for example, someone's having a concert. I can ask him, hey, what's the venue?
Okay.
That means, what is the theater, or where's this place you're going to have the concert?
Okay, so for example, a stadium can be a venue, or a restaurant can be a venue.
Exactly. So a venue is a place where an event can be held.
Okay, very good. So now we have our reception venue, we have our guest list, and the girl was talking about her uncle officiating. What does she mean by to officiate?
Okay, so like you said, the verb here is to officiate. Her uncle will be officiating. That means he will be the person who marries them. So maybe you've seen movies before where there's a priest who says, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife till death do you part?
Right.
That person who says that, the person who asks the questions, he or she it officiates.
Okay. Officiates. So that's basically the action of marrying someone or leading the ceremony.
That's right. And in America, this isn't just anybody. Someone has to have
like a license
or has to be a priest and has to have the authority to officiate.
Okay. Very good. So that's a very interesting word there, to officiate. Now, moving on, when we talk about the food for the reception venue, well, we need somebody to cook it and prepare it, and that's when we hire caterers.
That's right. So a caterer is kind of like a cook, but a caterer basically arranges a meal for many people. And usually the person will bring the food to you. So, for example, if we're going to have a party, Marco, and we're going to throw it at a venue 10 miles away, the caterer will bring the food to us.
Okay. Okay, so that's a caterer. You get someone to cater your wedding.
That's right. Or cater a party. So I've had parties before that I've called caterers to make the food for.
Okay.
So basically they work with me and I tell them the kind of food I would like and they prepare it.
Okay, very good. And now for our last part for the wedding planning. You have the food, you have the venue, you have everything, but you also need to decorate a little bit. And this is when you call a florist.
Florist. So this sounds a lot like flower, right? Florist, flower. And then that's basically what this person does. A florist is a person who prepares flowers or who cuts flowers and uses them to decorate.
Okay. So you go to the florist to buy flowers, roses, and different types of things. Okay. A florist. Very good. So 6 key words there that are related to planning a wedding. Why don't we move on now to a couple of phrases on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
All right, so this first phrase is a really good one. It's a little bit gross. We're talking about sweat. The woman in this dialogue says, hey, no need to sweat it. So what does this mean?
All right, so if you say to sweat means when you're running, you're doing exercise, it's hot, water starts to come out of your skin.
Yummy.
Right? But if the person says, hey, don't sweat it, or no need to sweat it, it's a colloquial way of saying don't worry.
Oh, okay. So we're not actually talking about sweat here.
No.
So maybe, Marco, you and I are working on a project together, and I say, listen, Marco, I'm so sorry. I have a family emergency. I can't finish the project with you. Would you be able to help me out? I'm so sorry.
Sure. Don't sweat it. It's not a problem.
Okay, so don't worry.
Don't worry. Right, so if you tell someone to not sweat it, don't sweat it, or no need to sweat it, you're basically telling them it's okay, it's not a problem, everything's going to be fine.
Great. So the next phrase here is also kind of relaxed. It's kind of laid back. So the woman is still describing some of the things she's prepared for the wedding. And she says, hey, listen, don't worry. The music was a no-brainer. Okay, no-brainer.
Okay, this is really easy. Well, your brain is inside your head, right? So if you say no-brainer, it's basically saying you don't have to think about it too much, or it's very easy, very simple.
Okay, so I was deciding on where to go on vacation, and the options were Thailand or Antarctica.
That's a no-brainer.
Right.
Thailand.
Obviously, I want to go where it's sunny and warm. So a no-brainer means I didn't even have to think about it. It was that easy.
Right. The decision-making was a no-brainer. All right, so for our next phrase, the girl was also talking about the music. And she was talking about a band, maybe like a rock band. And she said, well, maybe they could play, but they would need to tone it down.
Okay, so this is a favorite phrase of parents, I think,
Yeah.
all over the English-speaking world. Tone it down. In this case, we're talking about music. So maybe, like you said, the friend's band is a rock and roll band, and it's really loud and
Right.
angry and, in your face. But for a wedding, that's not appropriate. So to tone it down means to make it more appropriate for the occasion. So maybe less loud or
Right.
no offensive language or no swear words.
Right. That's basically what tone it down means, right? If someone says you need to tone it down, it's a little bit more direct. Yeah, like you said, if your parents tell you this, it's maybe because you're being a little bit too loud or you're yelling or you're being irrespectful.
Yeah.
So that's why your parents would tell you, hey, you need to tone it down a bit.
That's right. Or sometimes we have this in the office where someone doesn't understand how to communicate in a positive way. And so they say, oh, that paper you did was really bad. It was stupid. I don't ever want to see it again. Say, well, maybe you need to tone it down a little bit. Think about the words you're using
Right.
and make them a little bit less harsh.
So kind of to relax, to reduce your level of being aggressive, of being loud. That's to tone it down.
Exactly.
Okay, a lot of great phrases there. Why don't we now go back, listen to our great dialogue one last time, and we'll be back to talk a little bit more.
Trina, will you marry me?
Yes, yes, yes! Jared, of course I'll marry you.
Oh, babe, I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. I can't wait for all the adventures we're going to have, for all the fights and the laughter. Can't wait to grow old and wrinkly with you.
Oh, Jared, I can't wait for our wedding. I hope you don't mind, but I've already chosen a date. 6 months from now in the summer. Melissa saw you buying the ring last month, so I had plenty of time to start planning.
She what?
Oh, don't worry, sweetie. I didn't know when you were going to propose. It was still a nice surprise. As I was saying, I've got it all planned out. There's almost nothing left to do. I wrote up our guest list, and we will have roughly 400 guests attending.
400?
No need to sweat it. My parents agreed to pay for most of the wedding, which is going to be a low budget anyway. So roughly 400 people, which means that the hall at Northwood Heights will be our reception venue. I thought it would be nice if we had the wedding at your parents' church, and my uncle, of course, would be officiating. We'll meet with him soon for some pre-wedding counselling. The music for the wedding ceremony was a no-brainer. My stepsister and her string quartet will take care of that. My cousin will be the official photographer. I thought it would also be nice if his daughter could sing a solo. Did you know that she's going to be a professional opera singer? And then, of course, the ladies at the church would love to be our caterers for the banquet, and we'll get the youth group to serve us. I was thinking that your friend's band could be our entertainment for the night, though they might have to tone it down a bit. Or we could hire a DJ. Your sister's husband could get us a discount with that company that does the decor at weddings. What's their name again? I was thinking that we could have an island paradise themed wedding, and our theme colour would be a soothing blue like aquamarine, and there will be a huge seashell on the wall behind the podium where we'll make our toasts. What do you think of small packages of drink mixes for our wedding favours? Who else am I missing? Oh, your uncle could be our florist, and his wife could make our wedding cake.
Oh, wow.
See, it's going to be wonderful. Oh, this wedding is going to be everything I ever dreamed of.
If I survive the next 6 months.
All right, so about weddings and planning out a wedding, do you think 400 guests is a small wedding?
No. I think this woman is out of control. In fact, in English, we have a word for a bride, or like a woman who's getting married, that describes someone who's completely nuts about the
really?
wedding. We call her a bridezilla.
Bridezilla.
That's right.
Like
So-
Godzilla.
Exactly. The movie Godzilla. He's a monster.
And he's out of control.
He's out of control. And a bride who's so obsessed with her wedding that nothing else is important. She is a bridezilla.
Now, it's a very big thing for a woman, right? For her wedding to be nice and perfect and everything. Do you think guys are more relaxed in this sense?
I don't know. I think it depends on the guy. As always, there are some people who want to be very involved and some people who don't care. But in general, I think men are less worried about the details.
They just as long as there's a wedding, it's fine.
Exactly. Although a lot of men, when the wedding actually happens, start to get very nervous.
Oh, but kind of like having doubts, maybe cold feet.
Yes, cold feet. Like, should I get married? Should I not get married? Uh-oh.
I think it's very interesting because you see this in movies a lot. And I've always wondered how often or how common is it for a guy or a girl to say no or to leave a wedding when it has already started? Because, you have invited all these people, all these friends and family, maybe people came from different countries, and food is paid for, venue. You spend so much money on a wedding, and for you to say no. I don't know how common it is. It's very common in movies, but I don't know anyone who's experienced this.
I don't either, actually, now that you bring it up. So maybe we could talk about this. Is this common in your country? First of all, do people spend a lot of money on weddings? And second of all, have you ever heard of someone actually leaving the wedding before they finished?
Yeah, during the ceremony, not before, during.
During the ceremony. So our website is englishpod.com. We hope to see you there. Until next time.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Having a lot of wrinkles. Wrinkly. Ask someone to marry you. Propose. Simple or that needs further changes, etc. Rough. The place where an event takes place. Venue. To perform the official duties of a ceremony. Officiate. Something so simple as to require no thought. No-brainer. Someone who provides food and service. Caterer. The way something is decorated. Decor. The way something is decorated. Decor. Someone who grows and deals in flowers. Florist. Souvenir with a small gift and given to a guest at. Favor. A celebrity who receives much acclaim and attention. Toast.
Let's try that faster.
The place where an event takes place. Venue. The way something is decorated. Decor. Something so simple as to require no thought. No-brainer. Having a lot of wrinkles. Wrinkly. Simple or that needs further changes, etc. Rough. Ask someone to marry you. Propose. To perform the official duties of a ceremony. Officiate. Someone who provides food and service. Caterer. Someone who grows and deals in flowers. Florist. Souvenir with a small gift and given to a guest at. Favor. The way something is decorated. Decor. A celebrity who receives much acclaim and attention. Toast.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Venue. Now that we know our numbers, we can choose our venue. Venue. Which venues were you considering for the concert? Venue. The venue for tomorrow night's gig is the chic new restaurant downtown. Officiate. Her brother officiated her wedding. Officiate. Who is officiating this contract? Officiate. His parents insisted that he have a justice of the peace officiate the wedding. No-brainer. Going to class is a no-brainer if you want to do well in school. No-brainer. The answer to that question is a no-brainer. No-brainer. Who I want to be my maid of honor is a no-brainer. Caterer. The caterers arrive several hours before the guests to prepare and cook the food. Caterer. Whoever was the caterer for the banquet was phenomenal. Caterer. I am hiring Gaston as my caterer for the event. Toast. I propose to make a toast to the happy couple. Toast. We made many toasts to health and happiness that night. Toast. The best man was so nervous that he stumbled through his speech and even dropped his glass during the toast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we have an upper intermediate level lesson. It's kind of bitter, it's a little bit sad, but it's also kind of sweet.
That's right. We have a lesson today all about getting a divorce or divorcing someone.
Yeah, so this is what happens when two people's marriage ends. They decide they want to leave each other. They have a divorce. So let's take a listen to today's dialogue, and we'll be back in a moment.
Joanne, let's not make this divorce any more acrimonious than it already is, okay? Let's just get down to business and start dividing this stuff up fairly so we can go our separate ways, all right?
Fine with me. I just want to get this over with. It's important we make a clean break. I should have signed a prenup.
What was that?
Nothing? Anyway, you're right. There's no reason this has to be nasty. My lawyer tells me that you've accepted our alimony proposal and the division of property, as well as the custody agreement. I keep the cat and you get the dog. So that's done. Finally.
Well, let's not go there, Joanne. Okay, so let's start with the record collection. I'll take the albums I contributed, and you can have your cheesy disco albums back.
Fine, but I'm keeping the antique gramophone as my grandfather gave it to me.
I believe that was a wedding present to both of us, Joanne, and you hardly ever use it.
He's my grandfather, and he never really liked you anyway.
Whatever. All right, I'll concede the silly gramophone if you'll agree that I get the silver tea set.
How typical. When are you ever going to use a silver tea set? Fine. I don't want to drag this out any more than necessary. What's next? What about these old photographs?
Which ones? Let me have a look. Oh, wow, look at that. That brings back memories. Remember that?
Our trip to Italy. I remember that day. We were going to visit the Trevi Fountain, and we got caught in the rain.
And you looked so adorable with your hair all wet. I had to take a picture of you standing there in that little alley, smiling and laughing in the rain.
Oh, we really did have fun back then, didn't we?
Oh, Joanne, are we making a big mistake? I know our relationship has been on the rocks for some time, but are you sure we can't reconcile and try again? I still love you.
Oh, Jeff, I love you too. I'm so glad we didn't have to decide who keeps the motorcycle.
The motorcycle? But that's mine!
All right, we're back. So now why don't we take a look at 6 key words on language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Okay, Marco, this first word is what we call an SAT word. That means it's very difficult. It's so hard that many high school students in America study it before they go to college. Acrimonious.
So the sentence starts off by saying, let's not make this divorce any more acrimonious than it already is.
This divorce is very acrimonious, but let's not make it worse.
Okay. So acrimonious would be
Bitter.
bitter, very complicated.
Hard. So people emotional about it. You know, people, Joanne and Jeff, are getting a divorce. They're very angry at each other. So they're not having a peaceful divorce. So this is the opposite. It's very bitter. It's very angry.
Can you say this test is very acrimonious?
No. Usually relationships are acrimonious.
Okay.
For example, ever since they had that big fight, Jeff and Joanne's relationship has been very acrimonious.
Okay. Awesome. So acrimonious, a very hard word there. As you say, many people study it to pass exams in order to go into college. So now you know. Now, moving on, we have a very common legal term. When people are getting married, they want to sign sometimes a prenup.
Yeah, you said it's common. You hear this a lot in movies and TV.
Yeah, with celebrities.
Yeah, you read about celebrities. So basically, a prenup is a short way of saying a prenuptial agreement. Nuptial means having to do with marriage.
Right. So basically, if you sign a prenup, you are agreeing to certain conditions before you get married.
That's right. It's a contract between future husband and future wife about what happens if they divorce. For example, I decided not to get a prenup with my fiance because I don't think we'll get divorced. But maybe he decided to get a prenup because in case they divorce, he wants to keep his car.
Right. So it usually happens a lot with celebrities, as we say, because they have a lot of money. And if they get divorced, then usually it can get complicated, how much money the spouse gets, etc. So maybe their prenuptial agreement or prenup will be that if they get divorced, the wife may get maybe $1 million instead of $100 million.
Exactly. It's a way many people protect themselves financially in case of divorce.
Very good. Now, moving on, another legal term and related to money is an alimony.
Okay, so let's look at the context of this word. Joanne is talking and she says, "My lawyer tells me you've accepted our alimony proposal." Alimony. So this is probably something to do with money, right?
So she said that her lawyer has proposed an alimony, and that's usually a settlement, an amount of money that you agree on when you get divorced.
Right, so this is exactly it. In a divorce, this is how much money one person will pay the other.
That's right. So if two people are married and when they get a divorce, their alimony may be the husband. If he's got a lot of money, he will pay an alimony of $500,000.
Right. And so this is different from property, which is the next thing. Division of property means that you talk about who will receive the car, the house, things like that.
Okay. Very good. So very complicated situations when you're getting divorced, prenups and alimony. But moving on, they were talking about custody as well. Custody of maybe children, maybe custody of their pets.
That's right. So you talk about alimony. This is money. Property, which is things. But what about people and animals? This is called custody. I want custody. Custody means caring for something or looking after something. You could say the child is in the grandmother's custody.
Okay, so in the care of the grandmother.
That's right.
So usually as well, when people get divorced, somebody gets custody of the children.
Right. So he wants custody, but he doesn't have a job, so she will receive custody. You could say that. Okay. In this case, though, we're talking about custody of pets, animals.
Right. In this case, it's animals. But it's actually true, right? People, when they get divorced, they may ask the court for custody of their pets.
That's right. And sometimes custody is what makes a divorce extremely acrimonious.
Yes. Who gets to keep the children? Who gets to keep the pets? Now, moving on and a little bit away from legal terms, they were dividing up their property and saying, well, I get to keep this, you get to keep that. And Joanne said, I'm keeping the antique gramophone as my grandfather gave it to me.
So who cares about pets and money? I want the gramophone.
Right.
All right, so this is actually a word you don't hear very often anymore.
It's an old thing, and that's what antique means, right? Antique is old.
Right, so antique, This is an adjective here. It can also be a noun. An antique table, an antique gramophone, is something that's very old, like 100 years old or 150 years old.
And a gramophone is one of those machines that you see in movies that play the old vinyl records and has like a big horn where the sound echoes.
That's right. So in the 19th century, early 20th century, people didn't have CDs or MP3s or iPods. This is how they listened to music. So you usually have a hand crank. You have to turn the machine, and then the music will play, and you can dance and do whatever.
Right. So that's a gramophone. Now moving on to our last word, Jeff said, you know what? Okay, fine. Keep the gramophone. All right. I'll concede the silly gramophone. So to concede.
To concede means to give up an argument.
Okay, so you give up, you give in, you say, all right, take it.
That's exactly right. So in this case, the argument is who will receive the gramophone? They fight, they argue, and finally, Jeff says, I concede. Okay, I give up. You take it.
And is it only for things, or can you also concede someone like you say somebody is right?
You can say that, or an election. For example, there are two people who want to be president, and the vote is counted, and it's not clear who the president is, and one person says, fine, I concede. That means I give up, you win.
Okay, very good. So to concede. All right, 6 key words there. They're very interesting, especially the legal terms. Very common, and it's very common, and it's very useful for you to know next time you're watching maybe a movie or something related to this topic.
Hopefully not the next time you're getting divorced.
Right. But let's move on now to 4 key phrases that we have for everyone on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
Marco, let's get this over with. I'm tired. I want to go home.
Let's get it over with. Come on, let's just do it and get it over with.
All right, so this is our first phrase in Fluency Builder, to get this over with, or to get it over with.
Okay, so let's take that as a phrase, and to get something over with means let's just finish it quickly. Let's stop delaying.
That's right. This is a way to ask to finish something quickly or to stop something. So, for example, I have to go to the dentist later. Maybe I really don't want to go. I'll say to myself, let me just get this over with, and once it's done, I don't have to worry about it.
Or maybe you have homework to do, and instead of doing it later, you're just like, okay, I'm going to do it now and just get it over with.
All right, to get over with, to get something over with.
Okay. And when they were talking about breaking up or separating, Joanne mentioned it's important we make a clean break. What does she mean by making a clean break?
All right, we hear this phrase all the time. It's a very important phrase. In relationships, it means when two people leave each other, you don't then call them or see each other or hang out. It means a clean break. You stop altogether.
Okay.
You stop something completely.
So you don't talk anymore, you don't see each other anymore, you completely just stop contact with each other.
Exactly. You can also say this about breaking something. You could say it was a clean break. When I broke my arm, it was a clean break. There were no little pieces of bone or any problems like that. It was a clean break. That means completely broke.
Okay, so when we talk about clean break in a relationship, it means we completely break up, we stop talking to each other, and it's over with. It's in the past.
Exactly.
All right. So moving on, they were talking and completely, arguing about, I get the gramophone, I get the tea set. And Joanne said, okay, fine. I don't want to drag this out any longer than necessary.
So you can hear her. I don't want to drag this out any longer than necessary. So to drag something out means to extend, to make something longer, to make something take more time than it should.
Okay. So for example, if someone's giving a speech, they may be dragging it out, right? And you're, so if someone's giving a very long speech, you're like, oh my God, he's dragging the speech out so long.
Yeah, when will he ever stop?
Right.
Or you could say in an argument, I'm tired of arguing. Let's not drag this out anymore. Let's just stop.
Okay. So to drag something out is usually time related, to make things longer than necessary.
Exactly.
All right. And for our last phrase, when Jeff was talking about the relationship, he says, I know a relationship has been on the rocks for some time. Okay, so the relationship was on the rocks.
Okay, so this is an interesting phrase. Think about rocks. You know, you see rocks on the ground in the ocean. Something that's on the rocks, in this case, means something that is not going well.
Not
something
going
that has
smooth.
problems. Yes, it's not smooth. So when Jeff says our relationship has been on the rocks, he's saying we fight a lot. We have problems. It's not working.
So if I say my company has been on the rocks recently, it means it's not doing very well.
Business is not going well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can use this for different things. Now, obviously, you may have heard it before for drinks. You say scotch on the rocks.
Right, that's different. Be careful. In that sentence, Marco's talking about ice.
Right? Yeah. So that's different if you ask for a drink on the rocks. But if you describe yourself or your company or a relationship as being on the rocks, it means you're having a tough time.
It's a bad situation.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it's a very useful phrase. I think that's very native, very colloquial if you say something like
Absolutely. It's a great phrase to use. I encourage you. I mean, I hope that your situation, your work, and your relationships are not on the rocks. But I do hope that when you're practicing speaking, you use this phrase a lot because it's really, really colloquial, like you say, Marco.
Yeah, it's really good. So I think we've taken a look at a lot of phrases, a lot of vocab. Why don't we go back, listen to the dialogue for one last time.
Joanne, let's not make this divorce any more acrimonious than it already is, okay? Let's just get down to business and start dividing this stuff up fairly so we can go our separate ways, all right?
Fine with me. I just want to get this over with. It's important we make a clean break. I should have signed a prenup.
What was that?
Nothing? Anyway, you're right. There's no reason this has to be nasty. My lawyer tells me that you've accepted our alimony proposal and the division of property, as well as the custody agreement. I keep the cat and you get the dog. So that's done. Finally.
Well, let's not go there, Joanne. Okay, so let's start with the record collection. I'll take the albums I contributed, and you can have your cheesy disco albums back.
Fine, but I'm keeping the antique gramophone as my grandfather gave it to me.
I believe that was a wedding present to both of us, Joanne, and you hardly ever use it.
He's my grandfather, and he never really liked you anyway.
Whatever. All right, I'll concede the silly gramophone if you'll agree that I get the silver tea set.
How typical. When are you ever going to use a silver tea set? Fine, I don't want to drag this out any more than necessary. What's next? What about these old photographs?
Which ones? Let me have a look. Oh, wow, look at that. That brings back memories. Remember that?
Our trip to Italy. I remember that day. We were going to visit the Trevi Fountain, and we got caught in the rain.
And you looked so adorable with your hair all wet. I did take a picture of you standing there in that little alley, smiling and laughing in the rain.
Oh, we really did have fun back then, didn't we?
Oh, Joanne, are we making a big mistake? I know our relationship has been on the rocks for some time, but are you sure we can't reconcile and try again? I still love you.
Oh, Jeff, I love you too. I'm so glad we didn't have to decide who keeps the motorcycle.
The motorcycle? But that's mine!
All right, we're back. So a very interesting dialogue all about divorce. Now, this is a very common situation nowadays in many countries, such as the United States or Europe. Divorce rates are very high lately, like in the past 10, 20 years.
Yeah, they do say that since maybe the 70s or 80s, divorce rates have been on the rise. I think the average now in America is about 50%.
Yeah, it's like 5 in 10 marriages end in divorce.
That's right.
And then from what I understand or I read once, I think out of those 50% that get divorced, if they remarry, again, the probabilities of those that get remarried are again half. So most likely people will get divorced at least twice.
That's true. Although sometimes you meet people who got married when they were very, very young and they realize that they grew up a little bit and their personality changed or their goals changed. And they divorce that one time, but then later in life when they marry again, they know who they are. They get married again and it's better. So I think the situations are all quite different, but it is true that there are a lot of divorces in America. What about Ecuador though? I mean, is the divorce rate similar?
No, not really. I think people are still a little bit more old-fashioned in that sense, like it was before. You know, it was even a little bit taboo to be divorced.
Yeah.
But I don't think people get divorced as often, especially if people have been together for quite a while. That's one of the things that surprises me a lot is I've met people who have been married 20, 30 years and then get divorced. It's like, what? It's like you've been through the toughest times. You know, you've pretty much beat the odds. And why do you get divorced at such a late age?
Yeah, it does seem counterintuitive, but it's possible that they were unhappy for that time and they didn't want to affect their children's lives.
Right, maybe.
And so when their children go to college or leave, they say, okay, now I can, you know, make a big decision.
I know in countries, for example, such as Chile, divorce is still illegal. I think in the Philippines as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's still illegal to get divorced.
Is that because they're very religious countries?
I know Chile is not really that religious. I don't know what it is exactly by law, but a lot of people, I think it may be legal now. I can't really remember very well. I think one of our Chilean listeners can help us out here. But I know a lot of people used to annul their marriages because of this.
I see.
So they would be like, oh, I put the wrong address. So no, this marriage is not valid.
Right.
Or stuff
I
like
spelled
that.
my name wrong.
Yeah. So,
Interesting. Well, I'd be curious to know, as you said, whether any of our Chilean friends know more about this, or for the rest of you, in your country, is divorce common? Is it uncommon? Are there laws that prohibit or that allow divorce? Let us know on our website, englishpod.com.
all right, we'll see you guys there.
Bye.
Bye. The English Pod audio review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Thorough or complete stop in a relationship. Clean break. Prenuptial agreement, a contract prior to marriage. Prenup. The act of keeping safe or guarding. Custody. To acknowledge, often reluctantly, as being true. Concede. Proceed for an extended period of time. Drag this out. Set or keep apart in the relationship. Go our separate ways.
Let's try that faster.
To acknowledge, often reluctantly, as being true. Concede. Proceed for an extended period of time. Drag this out. Set or keep apart in the relationship. Go our separate ways. Prenuptial agreement, a contract prior to marriage. Prenup. Thorough or complete stop in a relationship. Clean break. The act of keeping safe or guarding. Custody.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Clean break.
I don't care if he wants to keep the house and the car. I just want a divorce and a clean break so I never have to see him again.
Clean break.
A clean break can only occur if both parties are financially independent.
Clean break.
You're not able to divorce with a clean break at the moment because your husband can't work and needs financial support.
Go our separate ways.
I think it is better if we go our separate ways.
Go our separate ways.
They decided to end the relationship and go their separate ways.
Go our separate ways.
I proposed we go our separate ways, but she didn't want to.
Custody.
I am fighting for custody of my dog.
Custody.
The court gave custody of the children to the father.
Custody.
People always have custody battles when they get divorced.
Concede.
After 3 hours of fighting, she conceded to him the computer.
Concede.
I find it hard to concede when people are right.
Concede.
He conceded me the right to use the car every day.
Drag this out.
I hate it when people drag out a conversation for hours.
Drag this out.
I don't want to drag out this argument any longer.
Drag this out.
The weatherman said that this bad weather will drag out for another 3 days.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we're talking about something that's very common in high schools all across the English-speaking world.
That's right. Today we are going to talk a little bit about sexual education, or also called sex ed. So you may be asking yourself what exactly this means, so let's take a look at this word on Vocabulary Preview.
Vocabulary Preview.
Okay, so more commonly than not, we're going to hear the phrase sex ed, ED. That stands for education. This is basically a class or a training about sexuality and safety when it comes to these issues.
That's right. So as you said, this is a very common class that is part of the school curriculum in English-speaking countries. I think maybe students are about 16 to 15, 16 years old when they get sex ed.
We had it when I was about 13, 14.
13, 14. So it all depends. Now, many countries don't really have this in their public schools. Other countries only have it in private schools. So it's a very controversial topic about if schools should actually be teaching this, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Why don't we take a look at today's dialogue? Let's listen to what's happening today.
All right, settle down, everyone. As part of this school's curriculum, we'll be covering sex ed this week.
Oh boy, yeah.
Now, I want everyone to take this class seriously. Sexual education is very important, and I want you to ask as many questions as you can think of. Remember, there are no stupid questions here.
Miss Carlton, what exactly is sexual education? Are you going to teach us like Kama Sutra and stuff like that?
No, Jason, that's not actually what sex ed is. Basically, we will talk about sexually transmitted diseases, contraceptives, and how the male and female bodies work.
My older sister is in college, and she takes what she and her friends call the pill. I never really understood what that is, but I know it has to do with sex or something.
Good point, Jason. This will be the topic of our first class, contraceptives. As you mentioned, the pill is one of the many that exist. The birth control pill is taken daily by a woman in order to prevent unwanted pregnancy, but it does not protect her from contracting STDs from an infected person. Another popular method is using condoms. This is probably the best method if you have sex, since it not only prevents a woman from getting pregnant, but also protects you from STDs. Yes, Jason?
What are condoms made out of? How is it exactly that a woman gets pregnant?
Condoms are usually made out of an elastic material called latex. As for your other question, that's a whole new class.
All right, we're back. So now I'm sure there are a couple of words that we didn't really understand there. So let's take a look at a couple of them on language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Okay, so one of the most common phrases you're going to hear when it comes to sex and safety when you're having sex is sexually transmitted disease, or STD.
That's right. So the teacher actually mentioned the whole name, sexually transmitted diseases, and also she used the acronym STDs, or STD and STD. And what exactly are these STDs?
Well, the key word here is disease. These are illnesses that you can get from sex. So sexually transmitted means transmitted or passed on from one person to another person during sex. And this could include any kind of diseases like AIDS or syphilis or chlamydia or gonorrhea. Those are the most famous ones.
That's right. So sexually transmitted diseases. Now, why don't we get into the title of our lesson today? Contraceptives. What are these contraceptives?
Okay, so teachers are always going to explain the big difference between protection and contraception or contraceptives. Basically, contraceptives have to do with getting pregnant. If you don't want your girlfriend to get pregnant and you're a guy, or if you're a girl and you don't want to get pregnant, you take contraceptives or you use contraceptives. There are many different kinds, and I think the most common kind for preventing pregnancy or keep making sure you don't get pregnant is something called the pill.
That's right. One of the kids said that his sister takes the pill. Now, this is called the pill. Now, you know that pills are any type of a capsule or little medicine that you swallow with water. But what is the pill?
Well, this is the birth control pill. So that's a long name. People often in conversation just say the pill. But it's called the birth control pill, and it's a pill that women take every day, or some of them different times, to prevent pregnancy. And so that means that you're trying not to get pregnant.
That's right. Okay, so this is called a contraceptive. Now, as you mentioned, this is a contraceptive, so it will prevent you from getting pregnant, but it will not protect you. And as many of you may know, the most common form of protection against pregnancy and STDs are a little device called a condom.
Okay, so a condom is, like you said, the most common kind of protection that people use, and it's important because it helps you not only not get pregnant, but also not get a disease. And so people often talk about this as being the most important kind of protection from disease and pregnancy. And it's basically just a cover for a man's penis, and it prevents liquids being passed on from one person to another person.
That's right. And actually, as you mentioned, this has to do with our next word. It prevents you from contracting STDs, like the teacher mentioned. So to contract an STD or to contract an illness, what does that mean?
Well, contract is a special verb that we use when we're talking about getting a disease. You don't say I got a disease, you say I contracted it. That means I got it from somewhere or someone. And that's one of the dangers of sexually transmitted diseases. You can contract very serious diseases just by having sex.
Now, can I say I contracted the flu?
I mean, it's not incorrect, but we don't really say that with the flu. It's not a very serious illness. You say it with very serious illnesses.
Okay. So yeah, I don't think you would go around saying, "Oh, I contracted a cold last week."
I got the cold. And you wouldn't say this about cancer either, because cancer is not something you get from someone else. But you say he contracted AIDS, or he contracted gonorrhea, for example.
Okay, very good. So as you see, the spelling is actually the same as like a contract, like an agreement between a company or two people. But the accent is different. A contract is an agreement. To contract, that's what we're talking about, illnesses. To get. All right, very good. And for our final word, we're going back to condoms. The material that they are made out of is called latex.
Okay, so latex is a very special kind of material that is, like they say in the dialogue, elastic. It's stretchy, and it's almost plasticky, but it's very, very tough. It's very strong, and that's why they make condoms out of it.
And I think we also see things made out of latex. For example, doctors, when they're operating, they wear latex gloves.
That's right. Obviously, they don't want to use materials that are weak or that are thin, because they need to protect their patients from germs. And so latex gloves and latex condoms are very, very common because they are so durable.
That's right. Okay. So a lot of interesting stuff there. Why don't we now jump on over and take a look at a couple of different phrases on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
So So this first phrase is something you should be very, very familiar with if you've ever been in a classroom in America or Canada. Oftentimes with younger children or with high school children, people get really worked up, very excited. You know, kids are yelling and talking and they're giggling and they think that, oh, sex is so funny. And so the teacher always says, settle down.
Settle down. Okay. So if somebody tells you to settle down, hey, settle down, that means calm down, be quiet.
You're too excited.
Okay.
Calm down.
So you can use this with your kids, maybe settle down, we need to go, come on, get in the car.
That's right. So just kind of be quiet, be a little bit calmer. It's very, very, very important phrase, especially if you're talking to younger people.
Okay. And well, of course, when you're talking about sex with teenagers or younger people, everyone's laughing and giggling because it's such a weird thing for them. And the teacher said, I really want you to take this class seriously.
Okay, so take this class seriously. This comes from a sentence structure that's very, very important. To take something seriously. I take my studies very seriously, or you guys should take this class seriously. It's important. It means, listen, pay attention. This is important and you need to know this. It's kind of like a way to instruct someone to really pay attention.
That's right. Or what if you say, I want you to take me seriously?
That means I want you to really think about what I'm saying and not just talk to me like I don't really understand what's going on.
Okay, very good. So to take something seriously is the structure. Now moving on to our final phrase. When we were talking again about contraceptives, we talked about avoiding pregnancy, and we have a phrase that we use called unwanted pregnancy.
Okay, so pregnancy is what happens when someone gets pregnant. They're going to have a baby. But an unwanted pregnancy is a certain kind of pregnancy. It means when someone did not plan to get pregnant or did not want to get pregnant. So unwanted is the opposite of wanted. It means like it was an accident.
Right. So you wouldn't really say an accidental pregnancy because
it's still a kid.
Exactly. So you didn't want to get pregnant, but you did. That's why we say unwanted pregnancy.
Or you'll hear very often, condoms help prevent unwanted pregnancy, or the pill helps prevent unwanted pregnancy.
That's right. Okay, so a lot of interesting stuff there. I think it's worthwhile for us to listen to our dialogue for one last time.
All right, settle down, everyone. As part of this school's curriculum, we'll be covering sex ed this week.
Oh boy, yeah.
Now, I want everyone to take this class seriously. Sexual education is very important, and I want you to ask as many questions as you can think of. Remember, there are no stupid questions here.
Miss Carlton, what exactly is sexual education? Are you going to teach us like Kama Sutra and stuff like that?
No, Jason, that's not actually what sex ed is. Basically, we will talk about sexually transmitted diseases, contraceptives, and how the male and female bodies work.
My older sister is in college, and she takes what she and her friends call the pill. I never really understood what that is, but I know it has to do with sex or something.
Good point, Jason. This will be the topic of our first class, contraceptives. As you mentioned, the pill is one of the many that exist. The birth control pill is taken daily by a woman in order to prevent unwanted pregnancy, but it does not protect her from contracting STDs from an infected person. Another popular method is using condoms. This is probably the best method if you have sex, since it not only prevents a woman from getting pregnant, but also protects you from STDs. Yes, Jason?
What are condoms made out of? How is it exactly that a woman gets pregnant?
Condoms are usually made out of an elastic material called latex. As for your other question, that's a whole new class.
All right, so coming back, we obviously didn't cover all forms of contraception and forms of protecting yourself against STDs, but I remember very clearly in school when we talked about this, they said the best protection, the best way to not get pregnant or to get STDs is celibacy.
That's right. Celibacy is not having any sex.
Okay.
When I was in school, they said the safest sex is no sex.
Yeah.
Because there's always a little bit of danger.
Yeah.
And so this is something that I think they tell a lot of young people to scare them, but there is some truth to it.
Yeah, of course. Now, what do you think about this topic? Do you think it's worthwhile and we should teach children sexual education, or many people protest against it and say this is wrong? We shouldn't be giving kids condoms when they're in high school.
Well, personally, I think that kids in most parts of the world will have sex whether or not you tell them not to.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, because everyone's are always going to be people trying it, I think it's important to, inform students and inform kids who are in high school of options and of safety and of important health measures, because otherwise you risk unwanted pregnancies and you risk people getting, these very serious diseases like AIDS.
That's right. I think it is a very important topic. Some countries or some places, even within the United States, are a little bit more conservative than others, and so many times they are against this type of education. But I've actually encountered people who never received sexual education, and until they were maybe like 18, they thought they can get pregnant by a kiss.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the dangers. Obviously, there are both sides to this issue, and we're curious to know what you think. Do you think that sex ed should be a course or should be something that people talk about in schools, in high school, or in college? Do they do this in your home country? Let us know. Our website is EnglishPod.com.
All right. We'll see you guys there.
Bye.
Bye. The English Pod audio review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
The aggregate of courses of study given in a school, college, university, etc. Curriculum. Device, drug, or chemical agent that prevents conception. Contraceptive. A thin sheath worn over the penis during sex. Condom. To stop from happening. To prevent. To get or acquire, as by exposure to something contagious. To contract.
Let's try that faster.
To stop from happening. To prevent. To get or acquire, as by exposure to something contagious. To contract. A thin sheath worn over the penis during sex. Condom. The aggregate of courses of study given in a school, college, university, etc. Curriculum. Device, drug, or chemical agent that prevents conception. Contraceptive.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Curriculum. If you follow our curriculum, we guarantee you will lose 10 pounds this week. Curriculum. My school curriculum requires that all students need to take 12th grade English. Curriculum. The curriculum for this course is intense. Contraceptive. Even with the variety and effectiveness of contraceptives today, there are still numerous cases of unwanted pregnancies every year. Contraceptive. The most effective methods of contraception involve surgery, not contraceptives. Contraceptive. My wife's contraceptive of choice is the pill. To prevent. She takes a birth control pill in order to prevent an unwanted pregnancy. To prevent. I am genetically prone to developing diabetes, so in order to prevent it, I need to start watching what I eat. To prevent. I am grateful to my best friend because he stepped in and prevented me from doing something that I would regret. To contract. I just learned that a friend of mine recently contracted an STD. To contract. My mom contracted a disease that is causing her to lose her sight. To contract. I am very paranoid about contracting STDs from toilet seats. Condom. Using a condom will protect against contracting STDs and getting pregnant. Condom. Condoms nowadays come in all different textures, colors, and flavors. Condom. The effectiveness of a condom disappears the moment there is a tear in the condom.